Oh, interesting. I'm not actually seeing my little indication saying we're on. Okay. Well, hey, normally I get the indication that we're recording and I don't see it. Anyways, welcome to another edition of Vegas Badboyz of podcasting. I'm DJ Impact. I got the Badboyz here with me, and welcome to 3 Count. We have 3 great topics for the show, and we hope you enjoy it as well. If you happen to be watching us live, feel free to put in your comments, and as we see fit, we will try to get them on. But if you're listening to us on podcast, thank you for downloading, thank you for listening, and most importantly, thank you for telling others about us as we are continuing to grow. All right, and we won't be able to do any of that without you, so we thank you for that. Let's jump right into our 3 count. The first one comes from USA Today, and it is titled "How Dark Side of the Ring Allowed Professional Wrestlers a Glimpse into Their Tough World." So I'm just going to read you some highlight because it's a pretty big article. So let me just go over a few things. It talks about that it's a profession that comes with a lot of bumps and bruises, and that's just not in the ring. The producer and close friends, Evan Husney and Jason Esner, are the ones who are putting it together. It was quoted that we noticed that this world is so rich with these undiscovered stories, and it's such a fascinating world because you have characters that live 2 lives, Husney said. People, especially in the 80s, had to live their gimmicks and had to maintain in and out of the ring, and then go home and be dad or mom or whatever. And that to us was just super interesting. Dark Side of the Ring has stayed true to its name in exploring the dark realities of wrestling, including the death of Owen Hart and the double murder and suicide of Chris Benoit. And Esner said that we didn't want episodes to just end on just being dark. We wanted there to be some reasons for some hope or something for people to learn from in the end. And then it concludes saying that in the past, performers had to live their characters in and out of the ring to keep their mystique alive, which Husney said didn't allow them to feel or deal with real emotions. That, mixed with the amount of travel and pain, has significant psychological impacts on these performers, and it's not limited to their careers. And many former wrestlers have filed lawsuits against WWE for failing to protect them from repeated head injuries that led to long-term brain damage. Quote, "The abuse these guys are putting themselves through have been for decades. They are risk takers on different levels," end quote, says Diamond Dallas Page. And then, quote, "The toughest thing for ex-wrestlers is to try to find something that makes them feel the way they did when they were in the ring, and you compound that often with damage that we may have taken to the head. It makes depression a real problem among wrestlers," end quote, Foley says. "We don't get thought of as regular as the bigger or more traditional sports." So the way of these concerns is addressed in Dark Side of the Ring is why these wrestlers think that it's good for the sport. So, fellas, I got a couple of questions to ask you. I'm gonna kick it off first with you, Sin City Steve. I mean, wrestling fans. I mean, many of the fans enjoy Dark Side of the Ring, but I mean, do you feel that it could be more of a disservice by exposing some of the negativity? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think that at all. In fact, I think the exact opposite.
Okay.
I think that people want to know the good and the bad about professional wrestling. I mean, let's face it, everyone wants to know more than what they tell us on TV. That's why there are dirt sheets. That's why we do, that's why podcasts blew up, because there was a demand from wrestling fans to know more than just what comes through in the lens of WWE or AEW or, any promotion in particular. I think that, that these stories that are being told on Dark Side of the Ring, I think that they quite frankly need to see the light of day. And I think that it's doing wrestling fans a service, because if nothing else, this just underscores the fact that these superheroes are regular people. And, it just as regular people may stumble and fall.
Right.
If they get back up, then that's what really is important. Same thing with professional wrestlers, for sure.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Simon Street, have you ever felt or even questioned your love for the business? Because we love this business a lot. But after watching any of these episodes, have you just been like, man, why I love this so much? Should I be enjoying this so much now that I'm seeing the effects of what I've been exposed to?
For me, yeah, it definitely does make me not so much question my love for the business, but also just how I feel overall. It's actually deepened my appreciation for the business, because it's interesting whenever you're able to see this type of production take place, and it's not from WWE, so it's not cleaned up or tied down to we want to make sure we don't tell certain stories, but tell certain stories.
Right.
So you're getting a lot of authentic firsthand testimonies. You're getting a lot more deeper perspective from people that normally wouldn't even be asked or called if it were like a WWE or if it was other promotions. But for me, I really do appreciate every person that laces up and gets in that ring, whether it's the indies, but especially like, mainstream, because you leave a lot in your personal life to go pursue your dreams. You leave a lot. You basically roll the dice and gamble with fate sometimes with some of the spots and in some of the encounters. And although right now we see the product as, a little bit more organized, a little bit more to where some of these stories aren't, taking place, but we're starting to see a long time ago, man, it was really just in some of these stories, just lawless. You could find yourself in a sticky situation. And the best part is we're starting to see a lot of those stories on the road from people who, basically have paved the way for what we see today and realize it wasn't safe as it was today's product. So it makes me appreciate it nonetheless about what these people put on to entertain me. And I appreciate them with such a great high esteem.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me ask Matt Michaels. It mentioned in the article, Jason Esner, again, he's one of the producers of the show. He said that, quote, "We didn't want episodes to just end on just being dark. We wanted there to be some reasons for some hope or something for people to learn from in the end," end quote. So I guess my question is to you is, do you feel that they are doing a good job showing that hope or positive message on each episode that is aired?
And I think, I think so. I think they're doing a good job. It's a tough line, because what you also don't want to do is make a fairy tale ending to something that might not be a fairy tale ending,
Sure.
I know that a lot of people will always go towards, well, WWE controls narrative. That's true. But in any situation, the documentarians hold the narrative. That's what their job is. So this is a little, more of a look through also, people who, for the most part, like the upcoming episode where they talk about the Korea trip at WCW, for the most part, the guys are still around, but a lot of these episodes, when they deal with someone who's passed away, they're not able to speak for themselves. So this is
Right.
the only way you can, have those stories get out there, by having friends and family and people who've worked with them give the stories. Um, what I find it interesting is this. So Dark Side of the Ring started off with a Macho Man documentary, the Macho and Liz story, essentially.
Hmm.
A&E, on their new thing with WWE, they just told the Macho Man story, and there was backlash about what the actual storytelling ended up being like. And it's interesting because no matter what you do in that situation, you can have two documentaries that basically say the same thing but in different styles, and
Right.
everyone is going to have this opinion or that opinion about it, not portraying the characters, the people, in the light that they see it.
Hmm.
So it's interesting because I think that it educates people who might not know wrestling, but for wrestling fans, you've already made up your mind.
Sure.
So it's hard to separate that too. Because honestly, if you think about it, if you say so and so was a heroin addict, right? But that was your childhood, hero.
Right. Yeah.
What do how are you going to feel about that? So
Sure.
I think it represents it in the best light possible. The episode that just aired was Nick Gage, and you can even look at that and say, it focused on about three main, things that has happened in his life and his career, maybe four.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, you have to, when you do documentaries, you have to take the big things. So
Right.
there
Yeah.
might be things that you don't hear about the person because of the fact that they have to get to the stuff that is, the prominent stories. But
Sure.
they
Yeah.
do a good job, man.
No doubt. All right. Let's move over into our second count. And this one comes from lastwordonsports.com. And it's titled Raw: Why Magic Needs to Stay Out of Pro Wrestling. So he starts off, and of course, this is talking about this past week's Raw. So hopefully you have watched it. But he talks a little bit about Shayna Baszler. He says she's a legitimate badass, an ex-MMA fighter who's competing in UFC. She boasts about her MMA record, 15 wins, 11 losses, which is making her pound for pound one of the most legitimate female talents there's ever been with WWE. In NXT, she was booked to showcase disembarking on the second lengthiest reign, which of course was just behind Asuka in the history of the NXT's Women's Championship. And following her debut on Raw in February 2020, where she famously massacred Becky Lynch, causing the man to bleed profusely from neck with her teeth. And then she was booked like a monster, initially defeating ex-rival Kairi Sane, and she destroyed Asuka, Liv Morgan, Natalia, Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan in the Elimination Chamber. So, it just runs down just just how great that Shayna Baszler is. But then it also says that nowadays she's being pinned by Naomi and Lana as the fall girl of her team with Nia Jax. Also, to make matters worse, she is now a victim of voodoo assault. Okay. And they talk about how, there are instances within pro wrestling where magic has been done right. And apparently that has happened in Lucha Underground, primarily because a lot of their matches were cinematic. But apparently that is something that doesn't come off right when you do something live. He ends saying that, Alexa Bliss is not the problem. He wanted to make sure that was clear. She has been good to great in the role and deserve plaudits for her acting. However, whether because it's on a non-cinematic wrestling show live on Monday Night Raw, or because it simply does not work in 2021, it needs to end. The Raw women's division has struggled at times in the absence of Becky Lynch, and the division must not act as a backdrop to Alexa Bliss' supernatural feud with Bray Wyatt, nor should anyone in the women's division become embroiled in a supernatural feud with Bliss. If she's continue on this gimmick, it needs to be kept as far away from the rest of the division as possible, or it risks causing terminal damage to a division which has the potential to be great if booked right. Over the past year, it has not been booked well, and adding to the fiendish shenanigans of Bliss and Wyatt does not benefit anyone. Stop the magic. All right.
Damn.
Simon Street. Is this gimmick something that needs to be stopped immediately because it just doesn't make sense and doesn't come off well onto TV?
I think that although the author of this, which was Nicholas George, is entitled to his opinion, he definitely toward the end of that article got pretty emotional in his writing. But no, it shouldn't, because magic has been a part of some of the greater things in wrestling in the past, and moving forward in the present, it seems to be doing okay. I do think that there's certain people on the roster that can fit the bill for a booking like that if magic is used per se, or the concept of it. And there's certain people who don't, and it just doesn't seem like it carries well to us. But that's just my opinion on it. I don't think magic should be taken out at all. I think this one is okay. It was a little bit lost in translation, I feel, with the whole, her coming out on the swing and everything, but it wasn't bad. So I say keep the magic, like Disney.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let me ask you, Sin City. I don't know. I mean, so we were watching a match, and Shayna all of a sudden can't walk, and leg looked like maybe she's turned it or twisted or something's going on. I mean, should they be using it? If they're going to use it, should it be maybe on someone else? Maybe not on Shayna. Maybe they're using the wrong person. What's your take on this, the storyline that they seem to be going in? And do you think the author is right? It should be not in it.
Actually, I agree with the author. I think that magic as a whole should be reserved for only rare occasions. And obviously, we're coming out of the pandemic. We're coming out of a situation where the pandemic birthed cinematic matches, realistically, on the scale that they're using them over the last few months to the year. So, I mean, there have been other cinematic matches done in the past, but on the grand scheme of things, there have been a whole hell of a lot of cinematics that have been done in many different federations. Those types of matches, I don't have a problem with necessarily, magic here and there, that kind of a thing. But I do draw the line at the, live action kind of a thing.
Sure.
It took me out of that tag match on Raw completely. Okay. It was an okay match. I didn't really think too much of it, but then the Papa Shango type stuff starts going on. Next thing you know, she's going to be spitting up black fucking liquid out of her mouth. So, I mean, I didn't like it when WWE did that previously. I don't really care for it too much now. I mean, my only hope is that as we come out of the pandemic, that we see this stuff less and less. And quite frankly, I think that when more and more fans come back to the audiences, when WWE starts an actual touring schedule, it's going to be more difficult for them to do magic in traditional matches. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the way that everything goes, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I'd prefer to not have any magic on the show.
Well, Matt Michaels, you have someone that says, look, I don't have a problem with magic. You got someone else that says, it should not be in it, which I guess you could become the tiebreaker. But What is your take on this whole thing? I mean, is this really coming off that bad on TV? Is it something that's viable to the fan when you watch this? Are you is it really engaging? If not, how should they, if they do stop it, where does Alexa Bliss go from there? How do they turn the storyline? What's your take on this whole story about it should just not, it just needs to stop?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, HIV couldn't take magic out of it. So,
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm reading here and I just kind of slipped.
Wow.
Didn't know what you guys were talking about there for a second.
That was good though. That was good.
So first, let me make I love when you have these things with the authors and then you can click on who the author is. And Nicholas George is a Welsh historian, teacher of religious education, and freelance journalist covering professional wrestling and European football. So DJ, wow. Good job
thoroughly
finding
qualified.
This guy. So to me, doing supernatural stuff is not any more ridiculous than having a bunch of grown men running around in masks calling themselves the Dark Order with absolutely no ties to black magic. So it's wrestling. It's entertainment. Not everything has to be fucking shoot fighting. And the reason Papa Shango didn't work was not because the Papa Shango thing wasn't great. The character was fucking cool as hell. Yeah, it was really awesome. And you could see kids' faces, man. They were scared. And it was good, except for one thing. They used the magic on the Ultimate Warrior, who can't fucking execute, jack shit and acting skills. The guy just did not have that in him. So it, in a sense, just killed that fucking character, Papa Shango, because the warrior just was not great at responding to it. But I love the fact that this guy just is like, oh, they shouldn't do it. It's horrible. But you know what they did good recently is that graveyard match with The Undertaker and AJ. Yeah. And boy, there's some other things that work great. It's like, dude, pick a fucking lane. If you're thinking that this shouldn't be done anymore, then how can you say that but those I think you were saying were cinematic though. Regardless if it's cinematic. Listen, The Undertaker didn't have a cinematic match until 30 years into his career.
True that.
So, and listen, this is the guy who has been buried alive. He's been in boiler room fights. He's been essentially ascended to the heavens after a casket was, set on fire. And yet no one's going, well, that was corny. So I think first off, we haven't even seen where this is going. And thank you, Uncle Bruce, for listening to me and getting it out there that the doll should have some kind of powers. If we go back here, Bruce is listening because, like I said, Alexa shouldn't even touch anyone yet. Let Lily do the fucking stuff. And Steve, I know you hate it, but you also had a jump scare the other day. What was it, 2 weeks ago? So it's fun. It's something different. Chris asked a question. He says Alexa Bliss was able to get over for years without using magic. At this point of her career, does the magic gimmick elevate her further or de-push her? How would you answer? It makes her a movie star. I'm telling you, she's gone in 2 years. You're not going to see Alexa Bliss on TV. Oh my God, everyone's leaving, becoming movie stars or wrestling.
Well, think about that for a second. There's a lot of money to be made because they're already prepped. They can do their own stunts possibly, and they have the charismatic to hold the torch. Shit, I don't want to get too much off, but I'm just saying, who's going to be Johnny Cage in the next Mortal Kombat film? I guarantee it's going to be The Miz probably. Yeah, I said it. I said it.
Possibly if he's alive after the zombies ate him.
Yeah, the zombie said
So,
it.
Right.
that's another thing. You know,
Magic, ladies and gentlemen.
Magic.
Hey, if only he could have used those zombies to handle his vasectomy, he could have saved himself a lot of money.
Interesting.
You don't watch the show, I get it.
Here's yeah, that's a good reference. And actually, I think Mrs. Dad is more of a vasectomy to his love life now, being that he's moved in. But the honest answer, I think this is really amazing. When's the last time Alexa Bliss had to wrestle a match?
Been a minute. Been a hot minute.
Been a long time.
And not a single one of us is going, boy, her career is going nowhere. She's a fucking star.
Mm-hmm.
And all she has to do is sit on a fucking swing, rock on a swing, and have a doll next to her who is the instigator of everything that's going on. And number
you know
two,
what's cool? She can actually wrestle.
right. But see, the coolest thing is now you don't even have to worry about covering up any listen, Charlotte Flair is a giant next to Alexa, right? So Alexa's not the biggest, she's not the toughest, but she really has every skill that encompasses her being a good pro wrestling talent. The other thing with this that I think this guy missed the whole mark on, Shayna, again, she's a fucking MVP, because you look at the way she sold that, it wasn't an over like, like she didn't know why she couldn't get her leg up. She was like, it was like in cement. A lot of good actors can't even fucking do that.
Right.
So it gives Shayna a little bit more depth. Let her play. Let's see what happens. Maybe it will bring badass Shayna back. You know?
That's what we need. That's what we need. Shit.
So, but it's so fucking early. It's so fucking early. And trust me, I mean, if this guy was my Welsh history theological professor in college, I would probably be giving him shit too. So
all right.
Well, I tell you what, I tell you what, I'd rather see her in this Alexa Bliss than what she was doing with for the longest time with Nikki Cross back and forth. That was agonizing. And
we haven't seen the reemergence of Nikki Cross on the main show yet. She just started coming back and being used on the like the main event type show.
Well, I tell you what, she better not try to be friends, because Lily gonna take a little ass out.
Well, that's what's going to be interesting. They're actually, that would be kind of
there you go, Mr. Brick. Use that shit.
Yeah.
I want to be your friend. Lily, take her ass out. You know, you see her for like 6 months.
All right.
By the way, and this guy focused in on like the WWE. He didn't mention Su Yung.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about fucking ridiculous, right? Su Yung, Susie, Sue, you know, Mick Foley, Mankind going into, you know, Dude Love, into Cactus, into Mick. So there are all these different instances of it being used. So just relax, man. Have a Welch's soda. Isn't it grape juice? Grape juice, right? Welch's grape soda.
Yeah.
Man.
Is that what you're drinking when you're high? I mean, is that like a choice drink?
But I'm assuming that's what he drinks since he's a Welsh historian.
Oh, yeah.
I see it.
Okay, so our third and last topic. This should be really, really, really fun. When we're going to come to Matt Michaels first on this. It's from the sportsrush.com, and it's titled that WWE fans average highest IQ among sports fans according to the new study. It says that WWE fans average highest IQ among sports fans according to the new study, and the study was conducted across 6 different sports in the U.S. WWE fans have been long mocked for their interest in wrestling. Sports entertainment, as Vince McMahon likes to call it, isn't looked favorably by the mainstream audience due to the scripted nature of the sport. Fans are generally considered to not be too bright. A recent study, however, seems to indicate that otherwise. How to Bet recently conducted a study on fans of 6 different sports. The results suggest that WWE have fans with the highest average IQ. The 6 sports taken into considerations were WWE, baseball, ice hockey, football, basketball, and motor racing. And WWE fans averaged an IQ of 112.6. This was the highest among the 6 fan bases. Ice hockey was a close second with 112.3. Basketball and football were third and fourth with 110.7 and 105.9 respectively. And baseball was fifth with 101.3, while motor racing was bottom of the pile with 95.2. Oh, you NASCAR drivers, I tell you. Huh. Okay, that's the story. Matt Michaels, according to this, maybe that's why you're so, you're really quick with it. I mean, you got a very high IQ for being a WWE wrestling fan. Tell me about it. What do you think of this article, man?
Well, thank God they didn't ask AEW fans about their IQ, or else they'd have been out the fucking charts at like 200.
I mean,
and they would have told you so.
Despite your
Damn.
sarcasm.
Poking out the gate.
Oh, God.
So I find it kind of ironically hysterical that they take the fan base of 5 legitimate competitive sports and then let's throw wrestling in there, which draws the most diverse group that you're going to draw from because it's athletic meets entertainment, right? Great. I find it amazing that any one of us probably would have said the lowest IQ is race car fans, which is, I mean, like that's what you think of. So I don't know if it even qualifies to put it in there, but in the end, it's a fun little poll. It's interesting. I think baseball fans being 5th is very funny to me because baseball fans are the most statistically based fan base. So you would figure that their IQs would be a little more than, but hockey fans, hockey fans on your average, I think, are usually college educated fans. So that kind of makes sense. Basketball and football is kind of right in there. You know, basketball should be a little bit above football. But, wrestling fans, to the contrary of the opinion of the idea that wrestling fans are white trash, which basically, it's funny because essentially you would think from the stigma that wrestling fans are race car fans.
You would think.
Yeah.
So I think that's why this article is written as kind of like, oh, this is so surprising. But again, the thing is that if you're only also focusing on WWE fans, the honest answer is if you put even more fans into that are in all the other promotions, you're probably bringing that number up a little bit as well. So I think that the joke of the wrestling fan is an idiot ended when wrestling fans started becoming smarks, because it's better to show your superiority than to be the bottom feeder.
Wow.
All right. Well, let me ask you, Sin City. On her chat, Chris says, "Hey, as South Park proved, all motorsport racers just guzzle Vagisil and only know how to turn left."
Amen.
And by the way, wait. That is I'm glad you brought that up. because South Park, in their wrestling episode, where they had the backyard wrestling, which was all a Shakespearean theater and never wrestling, that is your wrestling fan. They're smarter than just the blood and guts.
Okay.
Oh, he's right.
No pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Okay. Blood and guts. Let me go over to you.
See, I'm so smart. I didn't even think of making that. That just happened.
All right, Sissy, what's your take on this, man? Apparently, you're very bright too, but
thanks.
Race car drivers are not. What's going on?
Hey, man, it's you know, I don't really put a whole lot of stock into surveys like these, but it is kind of fun to dispel that myth, as Michaels had mentioned, of the white trash soap opera for men, aka professional wrestling. So it's for me, this is just I'll say that I was pleasantly surprised by this. Not so pleasantly surprised by the placement of other fans. Obviously, I don't want to disparage any of our wonderful listeners that may or may not, enjoy watching people make left turns. So, yeah, no, this is definitely welcome. I think that, when Matt had mentioned when fans, wanted to become smart marks and stuff like that, there's obviously, he was, making a humorous statement, but legitimately there's not another fan base that's out there that is as absorbed and wrapped up into the lore, the culture, whatever canon mythos that exists for professional wrestling. You're going to have professional wrestling fans that will travel all over the world just to do it, and just to go see Wrestle Kingdom in Japan, just to go to WrestleMania. So they are the most dedicated fan base. And a lot of times, why are they the most dedicated? Because there's such a huge body of work that people can draw from, and there is lore that can affect you in any walk of life, any upbringing, any kind of social status that you're in. You can identify with somebody on one of those rosters, and that can be your reason for being a fan.
Yeah. Simon Street, your IQ, man, I don't know, it's kind of between high and middle, because you're kind of like this basketball, football, you always claiming Saints, but then you're a wrestling fan too, so you're kind of in between. I don't know. What's your take on this story, man?
DJ, yeah. He spells IQ EYECUE.
Hey, man, they don't teach you everything in a master's course. All right, man. Spelling is definitely not one of the things that got me my master's degree, thankfully. Otherwise, I probably would have bought it in I don't know, on Amazon. But you know what? I will say, I'm just like Sensei Steve. I don't really put a lot of stock into a lot of these polls and stuff like that. It's interesting, it's exciting, but it may not be 100% factual on every single thing. But when I first saw it on first glance, I was like, okay, so Canadians are probably smarter than mostly everybody because of hockey and freaking wrestling. And I kind of noticed, that's like, oh, damn, I guess Canadians are smart. I don't know. Also, too, the interesting thing enough is I'm originally from Louisiana, and I have a lot of people, some people in my family, particularly on my mother's side, that watch NASCAR. I have friends who watch NASCAR, and some of them, I find them to be intelligent. So they must be part of the smaller percentage of NASCAR fans, according to this poll. What I will say is this. I think it's amazing that when I think of this article too, I think of the word intellectually stimulating. And I think a lot of us sometimes and that's not to say that football doesn't get like that, because I think one thing that was not accounted for is the percentage of people who do, particularly NFL fantasy football. Those motherfuckers are really, really, really intelligent and really are stimulated by the sport, by looking at stats, looking at what are some situations going on in the locker room. So I feel like this poll didn't talk about that. But when you talk about wrestling, because that's what we're talking about, is a lot of us do get schmarky at times. We don't want to admit it. It's almost like being an asshole to some degree, but it's fun. It's fun to indulge in a smart-like behavior and set up your own booking, you know what I mean, or look at and think we kind of understand what the the industry really is, when in all actuality we might be off. It's fun, it's stimulating. So I think that goes into account of why that IQ rating is high, because the more you're stimulated, the more you're challenging. Even if for the most part a fan may say, hey, well, you know what, this person's going to go over on this in this match because this is what's good for business and whatnot. They're stimulating their brain, even though it's make believe, for the most part. And I think that's why that poll kind of shows is, we're not just people that look at a product that everybody thinks largely is make-believe or not fun. There's tons of acting. There's tons of stunt work that takes calculation, manipulate. To some degree, I look at wrestling as manipulators of gravity at times. They manipulate and torque their bodies. They make us believe that an arm bending at a certain degree level really hurts. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so leave it as short. Wrestling fans are smart. We're fucking smart.
All right. Okay.
The interesting thing here, though, is that you got to realize we're not talking about the direct relation to the sports or or to wrestling in terms of the IQ itself. They obviously were given IQ tests. So my big thing is that if you look at WCW, they ended up running the weekly college party during the Monday Night War era. A lot of the wrestling fans are college educated people.
Yeah.
And it just comes down, and think about that. That makes sense too, because these are the same people who have families who, you obviously have to have a decent job if you're taking, 3-4 kids to, a wrestling event where it's costing, $1 million just to go see, zombies and voodoo. And by the way, we are the smartest fans, even though we have zombies and voodoo. So.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys for participating in those discussions. That was awesome. And thank you all in the chat. So a lot of chatting going on in the chat room. So we shout out to all of you as well. I guess that is going to be our 3 count. We'll give our final thoughts. And I guess my final thought would be, I just want everybody to definitely be careful out there as they are, we've now kind of lifted the mask wearing. And so, out here, this past weekend, everyone quickly threw that mask off and just, back to living a life. But we do know that everybody probably haven't, gotten themselves vaccinated and all. And this, however you feel about that, just be careful, because the disease still is not going to go away. COVID's still not going to go away. It's still out there. And if you're not protected, you can still catch it, and you can possibly still die from it, and you can also still spread it.
Wait, are we talking about magic again?
No,
not magic. No.
But I tell you what, the itch on your crotch will go away before the COVID goes away. So just think about that.
Okay. Oh boy, I was trying to give some really good info, but you take what you want from that. Let me go ahead and just pass it right over to how about you, Simon Street? What you want to tell the good people out there?
No, I was going to say a little bit what you're saying, man. Just be safe out there. And if you decide to take your mask off, just remember what the report says. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I just want to make sure that you understood the basic what was said. If you have been vaccinated, you can take your mask off. It's recommended you can. So you might want to be smart in the same vein of people that get in their car and they drive. It might be important for you to have a license, with you, just in case you ever need to show it. So the same should be said with your vaccination. If you do, and that's your choice, and you want to take your mask off, fine. You're entitled to, apparently. Just make sure you're smart and have your damn card with you, laminated, something. But other than that, thank you so much, everybody, for supporting, and we appreciate it. And hey, be safe out there.
All right. Sin City, what you want to tell the people?
Papers, please. Simon. Papers, please.
My papers?
Yes.
Oh, I got the digital right here because I did it
All
today
right.
because I was thinking about it. That's why I said
Great.
it.
Better you than I. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, all the stuff that you guys do. We do this for you. So thank you. Special shout out to all the brave men and women out there serving this country on lands, both foreign and domestic. You make it possible for us to do this. So thank you. And last but not least, repsports.com, reppsports.com. Go there for all of your pre-workout, weight loss, and energy drink needs. Repsports.com. Use promo code Vegas at checkout and save yourself 15%.
Awesome. Thank you much for that, Sin City. And Matt Michaels, you have the final word.
Yeah, that's seriously. I'm all I can think about is the Dalmatian pattern on Charlotte's top and how it looked like puppies. Oh.
Puppies. Oh boy. Taking it back to the king and JR days, I see.
I'm just wondering where you're going to take it after the show is off the air.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man, she can put me in a figure 4 any time of day.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
So can Rick, by the way, if you're,
You say so can Rick.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I'll take Space Mountain every once in a while. Why not?
Oh, my Lord. Okay, everybody, thank you for listening and everyone for hanging out with us in the chat. This is Tuesday's podcast. That means tomorrow's Wednesday's podcast will end up being the Falco Files. Make sure you listen to it. It's going to be great. They're going to talk about what happened this past weekend and what's going to be coming up. I mean, we're back at it, guys. We're back getting ready to attend shows and just enjoy what we've always loved, wrestling. So make sure you tune in and we're going to do our best to keep you entertained. With that, take it easy. We see you next week.